Self-sabotage is real, and many of us engage in it and partake in it on a daily basis. Some of us not as much, but we still do. How do we begin to resolve that self-sabotaging behavior? How do we stop it? How do we realize what we're doing, but better yet, how do we understand why we're doing it in the first place? For that information and more, you'll want to watch this video. Hi friends, glad to be back today, and today we're going to be talking about self-sabotaging behavior and how it directly relates to self-acceptance or lack thereof of acceptance. In a previous video, I discussed what self-acceptance is and defined it and understand how we can accept ourselves, but how that a lot of times we have this internal thought process that's going on in our head that triggers us to sabotage ourselves. It triggers us to stop being proactive or stop being responsible and do something that, well, it hurts us, it upsets us, and afterwards we beat ourselves up for doing it. Some examples of self-sabotaging behavior is binge drinking, drugs, sex addiction, gambling, toxic relationships, not eating during the day, starving ourselves, not sleeping, that sort of thing, right? Doing those things that actually hurt us. That's what self-sabotage is. Doing things that hurt us, make us feel bad about ourselves, make us physically feel bad, or take us off target from where we were heading. In order to be aware of our self-sabotaging behavior and eventually put a stop to it, we have to understand what actually engages the self-sabotaging behavior. What fuels the fire? Well, what fuels the fire is the thought. We have thoughts in our mind, usually thoughts that are negative about ourselves, negative about our life situation, negative about our trajectory, and that thought starts the ball rolling to the actual engagement of self-sabotage. In order to really understand this and break this down, I have a couple of questions that I want you to think about, and then I have some actions. The first thing is, what self-sabotaging behavior have you partaken in recently? Think about it. What was it? Go back to your thoughts and think, okay, what did I do? And really, don't judge yourself negatively in this situation. Don't put yourself down. Don't beat yourself up. You've probably already done that, so I'm not asking you to do that now. And it's not going to help us to understand things if we are beating ourselves up. So what is it that you participated in that you felt bad about, or it got you off target, or it took you out of being successful, or it took you from doing your responsibilities? And it's probably something that you've partaken in the past. Okay, think about that. Okay, so we have that in mind. The second question is, how bad did you beat yourself up over doing the self-sabotaging behavior after the fact? Think about that. And I don't want you to judge that either. And so think about what you said to yourself, or the negative thoughts in your head, or even the more negative impact of judgment on you for doing that, okay? So let me ask you a question. Is it worth it to continue to self-sabotage, or are we ready to change that? Okay. I know in my past when I've self-sabotaged myself, the next day was the rude awakening. It was also the judgment hour, right? Where you just kept beating yourself up. I can't get anything done. I can't do anything right. Here I go. I screwed up again. You know, that kind of sort of thing. We're adding to that negative dialogue, right? So it's kind of a slippery slope, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The more self-sabotage activities we do, the more mental self-sabotage we do, and we keep engaging. Another question that I have for you is, have you participated in self-sabotage throughout most of your life, or is it more of a recent situation? I feel that many of us have participated in self-sabotage for most of our life, and it's because of these thoughts that we've had in our head that have resonated for a long period of time and have been there for a long period of time. But sometimes it can be something that happened more recent. Maybe you went through a major life change. Maybe you went through a divorce, or a loss of a job, or the loss of a spouse, or the loss of a loved one could have actually kind of pivoted you into this self-sabotaging behavior because of the internal dialogue that's recently showed up because of something that recently happened. So if that's the case, that's something that I want you to mark and journal on. If it's not, and it's something that's been going on for a long time, can you go back to the beginning and start thinking about how often you have been sabotaging yourself? What was the method of sabotage? Has that method changed, or is it the same? So the big enchilada here, and this is what I want to get to, is that the next time you participate in self-sabotaging behavior, I want you to try to begin to identify what was being thought about in your mind right before. Okay, So it's almost like we're looking at this like a scientific experiment, like we're in a laboratory, right? Viewing our own life. This is going to give us the answers to the questions that we have. Now, one of the things that I want you to think about is the next time that you begin to engage, let's say that your choice of self-sabotage is to go up to the local bar. Okay, that's your choice of self-sabotage. You go up there on the beginning of the walk or the beginning to leave your house to go to the bar. I want you to begin to analyze, what was it that I was thinking before I was ready to go to the bar? Okay, if your thought process is to call somebody that you've had a toxic relationship with for a long period of time, off and on, when you're picking up that phone, catching it and being aware of, okay, why am I picking up this phone to call this person when I know that this is going to be painful again? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to figure out what's happening right before the choice is made to sabotage. Okay? And so the next time that you are about to get on the phone to that toxic relationship situation that's not going to end well, the next time you're getting on the phone to get drugs or to go pick up some alcohol, I want you to stop and not partake in that self-sabotaging behavior. And I want to wait until you start feeling like you need to do that again, because there's going to be multiple inner dialogue triggers here. So we're trying to figure out what is being said in my own mind right before I decide that I'm going to screw myself over. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Because self-sabotage comes in many varieties, forms, and fashions, right? Many of us pick relationships that don't work. Many of us pick drugs or alcohol, gambling. Many of us pick different things, right? It doesn't matter. It can even be something small. I can choose not to eat. I can choose not to eat for a whole day. Maybe I choose to stay up all night. I make those types of choices that don't seem such like a big sabotage, but I'm really sabotaging myself because I'm not taking care of my body. I'm not providing nutrients for myself. I'm starving myself. Maybe I decide that I don't deserve to eat. What is it in my thought process that's doing that? Okay, and they can be very small acts of self-sabotage, like small, the smaller go under the radar more, or they could be very large acts of self-sabotage. I've participated in both in my life, okay, the larger ones and the smaller ones. So it's like we have to be able to connect with right when we're doing this, or when we're making a choice that's not right for us, or that's not going to bode well, what was going on right before that? If you're able to do this, it means that you have to actually kind of slow it down and try not to act from every one of your thoughts. We're trying to begin to understand what the thoughts are so we know why we're constantly going on autopilot to sabotage. This is powerful stuff here, okay? So basically we're trying to learn the program in our brain, like if a computer's going wild on a program and every time it's running this program, it does the same thing. Don't we want to know what the code was right before it ran that? Don't we want to know what the coding is? So basically, I'm just trying to understand the coding in your brain, trying to help you to understand the coding in your own mind, to understand what is that trigger to do that. Because if we can begin to understand that inner dialogue, and we can begin to change that, then we can stop the sabotage. But right now, you can stop the sabotage by not doing the action and knowing that we're trying to get to the root cause. So what I'd like you to do is the next time that you feel as though you need to go get a drink, or the next time you feel as though you need to call that person that you have that extreme toxic relationship with, or the next time that you forgo another meal, I want you to be able to be enough aware of it to realize that these things are not healthy. I want you to also be aware that these things that aren't healthy, why am I choosing this for myself? I wouldn't do that to one of my friends. I wouldn't choose that for them. And then I want you to begin to be more mindful and start catching your thoughts on a daily basis so that when you are about to self-sabotage yourself, you know some of the thoughts that were going on in your head so that those can be journaled and written down and understanding, okay, I'm feeling negatively about myself because of this, or I want to escape because I feel like I'm not this. Okay, and then we can compile that, and I'm going to be working on some more videos as well to help you understand that inner dialogue even better so we can really understand the validity of what this means and how this leads us to this behavior. One caveat here, which is really wonderful, is that when we understand the mental dialogue, aka the triggers that get us to the self-sabotaging behavior, we understand ourselves even more intricately, and we can begin to understand where those mental triggers began and came from. And that's going to be valuable as well. So in the journaling, as you begin to write down some of that dialogue that you hear and you're catching during the day or you're catching at night, be able to ask yourself, where did these thoughts start? Can I go back and figure out where these began? Is this some thoughts that were brought up into my mind as a child, being raised in the family dynamic? Are these some thoughts that I took on? Are these some choices that I took on? Are these some defining moments that I took on based on what my teachers told me I was or something like that? So understanding, where do these thoughts come from? And then how do we begin to make the changes to let them go? If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And we also have a new join option here. You can click on that button and learn a little more about what join really gets you and the perks of joining this channel. In the comment section below, if you've done the inventory of your thoughts and you've really found some of these internal dialogue thoughts that you find self-sabotaging but yet profound, definitely put that in the comment section because that's powerful for all of us to learn from. Most of these thoughts that we have in our head could have started at a very early age. Some of these thoughts begin based on a huge situation that took place, maybe more recently, but most of it started early because I think that many of us are very good, unfortunately, at self-sabotaging ourselves. And once we begin to hear and connect that inventory, we can actually stop the self-sabotage, by being able to understand, I want to do this because of me thinking this way and wanting to escape, right? So it's basically like we're putting a stop sign here, analyzing, okay, I know I can do that, but I'm going to choose not to do that this time because I realize it's not me really wanting to do that. It's me wanting to sabotage myself because of these thoughts and triggers that I'm having that I need to work on. I hope that this video has really connected with you, and don't forget to live your true life.